Consultation. Call the law firm of Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George at 724-658-8535 or online at lgkg.com. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George, keeping promises for over 80 years.
You're listening to 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas, in addition to 1230 WBVP Beaver Falls.
Welcome to the Best of Beaver County, dedicated to putting the focus on the amazing things and the amazing people behind them in Beaver County. The Best of Beaver County is sponsored by and content is provided by St. Barnabas. The show airs every Thursday from 11 to 11:30 on WBVP, WMBA, 99.3 FM, and Facebook Live. Now, with no further ado, let's welcome host Mike Romai to introduce today's program.
Welcome to the Best of Beaver County on the St. Barnabas Radio Network. I'm Mike Romai, and during this time, once a week, we get together with interesting people. We talk about places, important issues to you in our region, and this morning is no different. In fact, it may be one of the most important topics we've discussed in a long, long time, and that's elder care. I know it's something that is on the mind of many people who are retirement age, their children who are taking care of their parents. If you're in or thinking about nursing care, some facility like that, what do you have to protect yourself? What do you have to protect your assets? I met Matthew Snyder last week when we were hosting a show out at the Beaver Valley Mall for the center at the mall. And I invited him to come on the program because I thought this topic was so fascinating. It was something that we needed to discuss and to get out there into the public so you maybe have a better understanding of what you will be facing. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me on.
It was interesting, and because I'm probably in that demographic, and a lot of our audience is in the demographic where you're looking at Social Security, you're looking at retirement, you may be having some health issues later in life, and it's all rolled into one, which causes a lot of fear and anxiety in people.
Absolutely. It's the long-term care piece is usually that missing conversation that may not have been had yet that could kind of put the glue together and make this whole world be understood a little bit better.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about Matthew Snyder first.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Center Township, went to Center High School before it became Central Valley.
So you are not a Central Valley warrior.
No. So I'm a Trojan. I was a Trojan pretty much the whole time. Other than a few years we'd moved away, but we came back. So yeah, I don't.
But you graduated as a Trojan. You were one of the last classes.
I was. Yeah, 2009 was my graduating class. So I think we were the last official Center High School class, and then after that they merged, and then they joined the schools entirely.
Yeah, and so you got out of town and you moved to Beaver Falls.
Yeah. So a couple more stops in between the way. So I went to undergrad at West Virginia University, and then I went out to law school at Akron over in Ohio. Stayed in the Northeast Ohio area for 7 or 8 years, and then moved home about 2.5 years ago, and yes, currently live in
Chippewa.
Chippewa, yep.
Very good. And why elder law and estate planning? What interested you in this?
It wasn't something that was on my radar. It wasn't something, particularly the elder law side, not something that they teach in law school. It's not tested on the bar exam. I assume it's probably an elective class now, but at the time I had gone, it wasn't something we were required to learn. I wanted to do corporate law. I thought business was the way I was going to go, and I did that for about a year, and it just wasn't me. Wasn't something that called my attention. I sat at the desk all day and did research and got my assignments from a partner. And
you got an education, but it wasn't a passion for you.
I thought this isn't what I was supposed to do. And so I was looking around for some other job opportunities, saw a posting for elder law, and I thought, I don't really know what this is, but it talked about how if you want to focus on more interpersonal skills and developing business and working with different families day to day and not really having the same schedule all the time, come on in and let's see if it works. And then the more I learned of what we're actually doing, of how we're actually able to help families, I realized this was what I was supposed to do.
And it doesn't matter what income bracket you're in. If you get ill, if you're elderly and you can't take care of yourself anymore, maybe you don't have any children around, maybe your children are busy with their lives. We call this the sandwich generation, where people in their 40s are taking care of their families, their mothers and fathers.
As well as their children.
And their children, so they're doing the whole job. And a lot of times that strikes fear in people.
It's stressful.
Yeah.
It's so many things are going on at once. We have, when you look from the adult child's perspective, if both their parents are still around but starting to show some health issues, right? We got to get dad to his appointments. Mom needs care now. I have work. My spouse has things going on. We have travel. Our children are in school. They have activities. They have constant, everything's moving at such a fast pace. Nobody stops to even recognize, typically, particularly if we were in a nursing home setting at that time, 6-8 months go by and we realize, holy cow, mom and dad just spent $75,000 or half of what they worked the last 65 years for. And there was nothing we could do, or no one told us there was anything that we could do.
Let's talk. I mentioned to you off the air. I was just talking with a guy yesterday that I've known for several years, and he said, he was retired, and he was taking care of his mother-in-law, and she's in one of the facilities around. She has a bit of dementia, Alzheimer's, but that when she retired, she had over $80,000 in the bank. Today, it's not there anymore. So it is really expensive to have to be put in one of these facilities.
Sure.
How expensive and why?
Well, the cost of care has just continued to rise as other things have risen. I mean, right now around our areas, we see if you need nursing homes. So let me back up a second. We typically try to lump every long-term care type of community into one big bucket. And really you have independent living, 55 and over communities where you're just sort of coming and going. It's kind of like college for seniors, right? They have the dorm living, they get fun, they have the happy hours.
Go out to their dances
exactly.
at night.
You have more personal care homes, which is the assisted living level. Mm-hmm. And then you have nursing home, which is more 24/7 around the clock type care. Personal care homes in Pennsylvania are only private pay communities. There's no government assistance options to help subsidize that care for you. Nursing homes do have an option, that's medical assistance, Medicaid, that is a payer once you've exhausted the bulk of your resources. And there's specific rules for a single person versus a married couple, but the overarching theme is if you want help, you're going to have to spend significantly down. The costs around here for nursing homes, we're looking probably $12,000, $13,000 a month.
A month.
So $150,000 a year.
That's wild. And so you saved all your life. You built your nest egg. Excuse me. And so it's there for your retirement, and you expected to have a good time. Problems arise. They're going to arise. Right. You have to go into a facility. Do you have to use all your money for this facility or for this reason? Or can you say, I'm on Medicare?
So Medicare, right? Everyone listening looks at every single paycheck you have ever gotten, whole life, every single one of them, there's a Medicare deduction that is taken out. If you need long-term care on a long-term scale,
when
Medicare.
You say long-term, how long?
So if you're going to continue to receive it, so I'll go get into it here. So what Medicare covers in a long-term setting, if you need skilled therapy, rehab services, and you had been admitted to a hospital, spent 3 nights, get discharged to a skilled nursing facility for rehab services, Medicare tells you you can get up to 100 days of Medicare assistance, and then after that, you're on your own. And most likely, you'll get more like 2 to 3 weeks, because once you plateau in your improvement, Medicare has an ongoing conference, and they say, well, we're out. And you get a cut letter that says now you either go home or start coming out of your own pocket if you want to stay in that community.
Wow. You're on your own.
So
yes. that's how these facilities make their money. So if it runs out, they're going to have somebody on the staff come by, somebody in human resources come by and say, your Medicare is running out in a week or so. We have to know what you want to do.
A day or so.
A day or so. Yeah,
it's pretty quick.
Oh my!
That there's not a lot of lead time usually before you find out. But yeah, and it's not this certainly isn't a thing on the facilities, right? This is just how our entire system works.
Yeah,
our system says if you saved, but not saved enough, right? If you don't have tens of millions of dollars and you're middle class and you worked and you paid your house off and you have all these things, before we come to your rescue for anything, spend it, right? So
that's what the government's telling you.
Right. So it's the same as, these very high net worth individuals. They're in the same boat, except it's a drop in the bucket to them.
Yeah. So you're at a certain, income level. Whether you're at the lower end of the economic middle part, or if you're wealthy, you've got millions of dollars, you don't care about this. Yeah, right.
Just buy it.
Well, as you said earlier, not all nursing homes are created equally. Not all these facilities are created equally. What did we do before we had these programs? I know Beaver County had a poorhouse many years ago.
Yeah. There were the whole long-term care world. It's not what it was 25, 30 years ago, because back then the cost of care was very close to what your cost of your retirement income was, right? You got Social Security, you got pension, that just about covered the bulk. But what we've seen over the years is these costs of care have risen so high, and our income really hasn't risen that much substantially. So we're left with this huge pitfall that comes out of our own personal resources to cover.
How frustrating or confusing must this be for the people filling out the forms and signing on the bottom line?
So I think that the best example or story I can give of that comes from a family I'd met with a couple years ago. Adult son hit it on the head. He came to me for a meeting with his mom. They were talking about dad who had dementia. He had been in an assisted living type community. He needed additional care, and they told him, we're not suitable for him. He needs a nursing home. So they just jumped again in cost of care. And the son said to me, if one more person tells my mom that her and my dad have worked for the last 50, 60 years, so that now that he needs this care, they can spend everything they worked for on that, I'm going to punch them in the face. Like, he hit it. And I said to him, I was like, you just spoke into existence what most of these families feel is there has to be something else that there has to be a way that we could protect ourselves, that we could try and come up with some middle ground, right? You'll hear a lot of pay your fair share, but why is your fair share pretty much everything you work for?
Yeah.
A single person has to spend down to either $2,400 or $8,000, depending on their income level, before the medical assistance would kick in for them in a nursing home. For a married couple, it's a little bit different with the rules. We have more of a split of the resources, and then the institutionalized spouse needs to spend down. The community spouse gets to keep the lesser of half for about $154,000.
So
right?
at least
These are spend down rules. And then we often worry that we leave our house, sometimes our biggest asset, available, that Medicaid comes back after it once you've passed away. Once mom and dad are gone, family thinks they're going to inherit the home. Well, not so fast, because Medicaid estate recovery is a program that says, we paid a bill. We let your other parent live in the house without kicking them out or forcing a sale. But now here we are coming to collect. And there's equity in this asset that they owned. And while it was exempt doesn't mean it's forever protected.
So, I mean, what is the incentive to save? What is the incentive to pay your house off? if they can, they're saying, well, you got the money,
Right.
we're not going to help you as long as you've got this.
The hard part is none of us know. Are we going to be someone who needs care, or are we going to be able to go to sleep one night and peacefully pass away? When you look at statistics, 7 out of 10 people who reach age 65 are going to need some form of long-term care in their lifetime. So whether that's in-home health, short-term rehab, memory care, full-blown nursing home care, we just don't know. But that's a very large swath of the population that's going to need it. Yet, where's the conversation being had about what to do about it? We're focused so much on things like probate and your will and, this is what's going to happen when you're gone. Well, nothing might matter when you're gone if you spent everything before you were gone. And that's where elder law really lives.
And that's who we're talking with this morning. His name is Matthew Snyder, Snyder Elder Care. A phone number?
724-777-5288.
We'll talk more about this coming up on the Best of Beaver County. Matthew Snyder is our guest. I'm Mike Romai. We'll continue on the Best of Beaver County on the St. Barnabas Radio Network.
I'm Patty.
And I'm Bob. We're retired, and we live at St. Barnabas in the Village.
We used to have a house.
Lived in it for 40 years.
Raised our kids.
But it became too much. The upkeep, the stairs.
Moving seemed like such a hassle. We didn't even know where to start, so we didn't.
Until we met Cindy at St. Barnabas.
She talked us through our options.
Yeah. And she helped us with our move and all the arrangements.
There was so much stuff. Who knew we had 3 fondue pots?
But she made it easy.
So easy.
Now we enjoy ourselves.
Golf, the pool, new friends, shuttles to where we want to go.
The pub and the food.
So good.
There wasn't a long-term commitment or any large fees.
And they have a healthcare system on campus with doctors if we need it. The kids really like that.
The kids like to come and eat with us.
There's an easier, worry-free way to retire at the Village at St. Barnabas. Come visit us for a free and informative counseling session and personal tour.
I can't believe you waited so long.
I can't believe you waited so long.
Visit stbarnabashealthsystem.com or call 724-443-0700. Snyder Law and Estate Planning. Matthew Snyder is our guest on the Best of Beaver County. We're talking about things that people don't necessarily like to talk about. Try and avoid this. You were scaring me at the end there. At the end of the last segment, you say that, well, once you turn 65, then you're going to be, you're kind of going to be down in the dumps. You're going to need some kind of care.
We tend to bring a lot of doom and gloom, right? I have these conversations, these presentations that I give, and I feel like I just am beating people up for 45 minutes of a presentation. Like, isn't there any good news that this guy's ever going to give us?
Do you have any antidepressants that we can use to get over this sort of thing? But it is something that needs to be talked about, and it's been generational. And I'm in the baby boom generation, and we always knew that this generation was going to break the bank as far as many people on Social Security and Medicare and all those other things. And we see growth in Beaver County, but what we see is that there are more personal care facilities being built because that's the age group.
We need them, right? They're like, people sometimes wonder, man, what are all these communities doing popping up? Well, there's a need for them. That's the point, is we have a lot of people, and as families have kind of moved away and spread apart, it isn't the whole, hey, grandma's who lives across the street already, she's just going to move into the room on the main floor of our house. That doesn't happen as much today as it used to.
And then you have the issues with people who've moved away, and they're saying, oh, I can't come and help take care of it. And then the person who's still living around here is the person who's taking care of everything.
Yeah, it's just we see the breaking points. I mean, it's a tough conversation. It's really hard for families sometimes even come to the recognition that it's necessary. And they don't want to talk about it because it's never going to happen to us. And the problem is, when it does, then what do you do? Where should you start going?
Yeah. Matthew Snyder is with us. He's a well-groomed individual, as you could see if you're watching this on Facebook Live. He dresses well, but he sleeps on a cot somewhere because he doesn't have an office. What do you mean you don't have an office?
Yeah, so when I started this whole thing a couple years ago, I've been in elder law, like I said, 7-8 years, and from different places that I worked, primarily in Ohio, I learned things that I liked. I learned things I didn't like. I tried to blend this whole practice into one cohesive unit that worked for me. And one thing that I found was a lot of families don't have the access because they don't have the ability to get out, right? It's raining, it's snowing, the temperature's bad. Mom doesn't see well when she's driving. I take that guesswork out. I come to you. So if that's your house, if that's a local coffee shop, if you're already in a community, they usually have conference rooms up front, right? We will make sure that you're in the comfort of wherever your comfortable place is. I still travel to Cleveland a couple times a month. Like I have a lot of clients out in I know, right? I spent a couple years having to try to tolerate Browns talk, and I just had to keep my mouth shut if I wanted to keep working, right? So, yes, it's good to be back home, but I still go out to Ohio quite a bit because I have a lot of referrals that send us work that know the kind of help that we can provide to families.
You're hearing same stories over and over again.
Same fact patterns,
issues,
just different places, and but very similar outlooks. They usually come to us with the phrase, "I don't know what you do. Someone said we should seek an elder law attorney. Here we are. I think we're too late, but if you have something that you might be able to offer, I guess we'll listen." And you know, those challenges are one of the things I probably like the most about this is we take these very bleak outlooks and we're able to explain in pretty short time, this is how we could get you back on the path you were on before you slid down the hill, right? There are options still. You're not too late. I don't think I have ever used that phrase with any family that we have met, because there's usually some form of planning or some advice that we're able to provide them to at least clear some things up.
And so you say there's no really too late point. When should a person or a couple start to look into this?
So I was telling Mike beforehand, you know, the elder law and estate planning's for anyone of any age, right? We do powers of attorney if you're 18 or 81. So if your kids are going off to college and they're adults, right, they need power of attorney for healthcare and finance if something happened to them while they're out of state or further away from you. The elder law side is more, the focus probably becomes when we're looking into retirement, right? We have a little bit clear outlook on budget and what we want to do. We want to travel. We're going to do these things. The conversation about long-term care just doesn't get had. So we have those kind of proactive planners who say, look, I saw someone go through this. I've heard about the 5-year look back. I've heard the suggestions that people say about putting your house in a child's name. I want to do it in a more structured way and a more a safer way. So we do that proactive planning. But really, when you start to notice some health issues, when there's falls, certainly if there's placement into some kind of community, that's the time. But even if you've had a family member that's been in a nursing home for 3 months, 6 months, a year, you know, and they're still paying out of pocket, we're not saying they're not going to pay something, right? We're saying we can probably put a lid on it, and we can maximize something that you get to keep, which is more strategic and more of a chess game than a checkers game that we're always playing, right? We're trying to think steps ahead so that we can preserve something and then follow all of the compliance rules that Medicaid has, whether from a state or federal level, to make all these things work as one solid plan.
It's an interesting analogy, the chessboard, but who's your opponent? Who are you playing against?
Yeah, people think that we're playing against the communities, right? We're combating the nursing homes. I've found that one of my strongest referral sources are nursing homes. When they understand who we are, what we do, how we can communicate with them, the relief that you sometimes hear from their business office, right, where they say, we have all these different residents that we're working on applications for, and this one's really complicated, and I'm spending so much more time on this and my other duties aren't being met. Like, we can help them take some burden off. Our opponent, I think of, it's the system that we have, right? We choose whether you're going to win or lose based on what you come down with in your older years. If you have a heart attack and you have an ambulance ride and a hospital and maybe a life flight and open heart surgery and rehab and stents and all these things, and you're 65 and over, right, Medicare is going to cover most of that. But if you had a stroke and we put you in the ambulance and we take you to the hospital and you're no longer able to live independently because one side of your body isn't functioning properly, we say, we'll give you 100 days, maximum of 100 days, but you're not guaranteed all of those.
Is that for rehab?
That's for rehab. And then you're on your own paying for this ongoing care for probably the rest of your life. So
why wouldn't Medicare cover that?
Medicare would cover the rehab part, right? Those 100 days up to 100 days. But once you plateau again in your rehab, like we said before, now they don't have any more skin in the game. There's no therapy that's going to make us any better, right? Whereas with some of these acute injuries, we can keep improving and get back to where we were. But if you come down with dementia, if you have Parkinson's, if you have any of these progressive diseases that we don't cure, we just manage, right? That's a long-term health issue, and you're going to mostly pay out of your own pocket for those services.
Matthew Snyder Elder Law. If and in that case, if you had a heart attack and they can help you and you can come back living almost full life, but if you become, like you said, a stroke or some other illness that you may be incapacitated. Once that happens, it's too late to go back and say, hold on, we want to set this up because we know now that Dad's going to lose everything because he can't sign the papers because he's not of sound mind.
Yeah. So it depends on which papers we haven't signed yet, right? That's why powers of attorney, a financial power of attorney, a healthcare power of attorney, those are the most important documents anyone can have. We need those things because if we have them and later on we became incapacitated and it has language that gives us the ability to add more planning for them as their agent, right? The power of attorney is the attorney, in fact, the agent who can act for them. It's going to unlock planning options that we can still take advantage of. Yes, if they don't have any documents, we're probably going through a guardianship proceeding. We're going to court. We have to get them declared incompetent. It's much more public. It's much more invasive. Powers of attorney are kind of our easy setup. We just have to take the initiative to do them, right? But so many things then can still be accomplished with trying to preserve something, keep mom with as much of the resources, protect whatever we can as best we can.
When you say guardianship, you're saying the government takes over?
Well, not necessarily the government, but we're going to go to court and a judge is going to determine that this person is no longer capable of making their own decisions. So they're going to appoint a guardian of the person, which is over medical decisions, and a guardian of the estate, financial decisions. Might end up being the same person, but oftentimes if we have a family member or someone close by willing to take that on, they'll slide into that role and get appointed. But if there isn't anyone, then yes, there are services, kind of government services that could help with those individuals.
There are people listening to this program right now who are thinking, well, I wrote all that down. I had a legal pad and I wrote who gets this and who gets that and what I want down with this and that, but it's never been notarized or signed by anybody else. It's just a tablet on a table somewhere.
Sure. That's right. And
is that legal?
So we call those holographic wills. In Pennsylvania, we didn't meet the formalities, right? So you're gonna have to go in front of a court when that person passes away and try to prove that they intended this to be a will. And we don't have as much evidence because we don't have two independent witnesses. We don't have a notarization of that will. It may end up getting thrown out and we're back to the laws that Pennsylvania has as your default that probably weren't your plan to begin with, right? That's the other post side of all of this planning that we're talking about.
Frustrating just to hear it, man. And I know we're just scratching the surface. So to be continued, I'm sure. I'd love to talk to you again about this. Once again, tell people how they can get a hold of Matthew Snyder at Snyder Elder Law and Estate Planning.
Yeah, so we have a website, SnyderElderLaw.com, Snyder like the potato chip. You can go on the website. We have a bar there where you can list your information. We'll send you a response once we get your contact info if you'd like to set up an appointment. You can also call us at 724-777-5288. We have complimentary consultations, so there's no cost that first meeting. We're trying to figure out what you actually need. What value can we bring, right? Not you walk in and say, I need a will. Yeah. And I say, okay, that's not advice. That's lazy, right? That's not you getting the actual answers you need. I would say, well, what are you trying to accomplish with your will? Okay. And then there we go.
You've opened our eyes a lot in this half hour. Repeat the phone number, please, if you will.
724-777-5288.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you very much
Matthew
for having
Snyder,
me.
Snyder Law, Elder Law, and Estate Planning. I'm Mike Romai. It's the best of Beaver County on the St. Barnabas Radio Network.
Thank you for listening to the Best of Beaver County.